Okay, in this video, we're going to be covering how to play Everseed. And we are in the open beta phase. I already have the app downloaded, installed, and I'm logged in. If you are not at this point, check out my other video. I will link to it where I walk through the entire process, okay? One other housekeeping item, just keep in mind I'm using an emulator of an Android device. You're going to see my cursor on screen. That's hopefully going to be very helpful when I'm referring to elements and a lot of new stuff if you haven't played before. So you can see exactly where my cursor is, and I'll be clicking. If you're actually playing this on a physical device, it may be a little different here. So just bear with me as I say clicking and dragging because I am on a desktop. Okay, now if you're not right on the Everseed app screen, I'm going to go back to my main menu here. Bear with me because it will be rotated the other way. The Everseed app looks like this. It is our little green dog friend called Arugi. So you want to open that up. Okay, now on my emulator, I don't have audio. The sound and music is excellent. It's not coming through. I can't even hear it myself, so it'll be a little quiet. But if you want to go to the hamburger menu up here, the 3 horizontal lines, you can click that and adjust your music and sound effects as you wish. This is also where you would log out if you need to. All right, so let's jump in. We're going to click start. At the time of recording this, the in-game tutorial is not ready yet, but depending on when you're watching this, it might be ready. So I suggest checking that out if it is available. In the middle, we have what's called a daily patrol. This is a unique level designed by the Amihan team. You only have so many attempts you can take on today's patrol, but you will be able to get some rewards for that, okay? So if this is your very first time, I suggest you go over to the past patrols, okay? So there is a new patrol every day. You can go back and play any of the past ones as much as you want. There won't be typically a reward associated with that, at least not right now, okay? But it does let you practice and learn the ropes. So for past patrols, let's go to start. And I'm going to pick the first one in the list. The names you see may be a bit different. It's completely fine because we are kind of in this QA mode right now. Okay, but you can pick the leftmost patrol and click continue. And keep in mind, I'm recording this as of February 2024. I'm on version 0.20. There are going to be some differences if you're watching this months later because the team is pushing out updates and making improvements based on our feedback, which is awesome to see. So if things don't exactly line up, don't sweat it. And now we're going to click continue, and we're going to be taken to a loadout screen. The loadout is where we are preparing for the patrol. So we are rangers. We are going out and we're battling this entity / force called the Blight. Okay. And the first thing I see is patrol information. Okay. And it's going to provide some tips on the upcoming battle. So it says basic, fast, and armored enemies. Bosses with lots of HP or armor may appear. Okay, and we'll talk about armor and what that actually means. Now these tabs on the left-hand side, you have to go through them. And as you select options, your right-hand side is going to be filled out in relation to that. So if I click on this is our companion. I like to think of them as kind of like a Pokemon. It's a very powerful ally, and it's an animal, and they all have unique abilities. As of right now, I just have the one companion available to me. Each patrol is going to be a little different. You might be able to make a choice. You might not be able to. So you can see that there's nothing here. Okay, so it says Arugi required. And then the infusions, you can see there's a little red icon. I have to pick something here, so I'm going to click on that. And you have these things called infusions. These are your defenders as well. So your companion is a defender. They're mobile. So you're going to see how I can move my friend Arugi around. The infusions I have to actually plant. They all represent like trees or plants or cacti, or you have like a coconut tree one. They're really creative. But you plant them and they stay there, and you can move them, and we'll talk about that. But in general, they are stationary. So I'm going to pick some here. when you're first starting out, I'd say just pick like a variety of them and you can learn about each of them. So we have Thorny, Muscle Branch, Blastwort, Tema Herb. Scroll down here. Sapweed, Dark Creeper. Okay, so I picked one of each, and now it's saying 6 of 8 required. I still have to pick a couple more. So what I'll do is I'm going to pick another Blastwort and a Tema. Okay. And then for artifacts, these are passive or one-time bonuses that you can employ in your strategy. For more of a challenge, there can also be artifacts that actually boost your score. If you're just starting out, I'd say stick to the ones that are more beneficial for you. Okay, and in this particular patrol, all of them are beneficial to me. And it's saying, Red Fragment, for example, gain 1 energy back after planting a red battle plant. And it's telling you what that is, a thorny or a fire flower. You can kind of see the color coding. Okay, so I picked 2 Blastworts. Blastwort is yellow. Okay, you can see the name listed there. If I scroll down, I haven't picked any fragments yet, so I'll click on yellow. Now, why would I pick yellow? Well, I selected 2 Blastworts, which are both yellow. So if I'm getting energy back when I plant them, it makes sense to pick yellow. I also picked 2 Tema herbs. Tema herbs are green. I'm going to pick a green fragment. Now, again, your patrol may be a bit different here, okay? So take some time to study a little bit. But again, this is a past patrol, so feel free to just kind of pick a bunch of things and experiment if that's the way you learn. Okay, but I am already starting to strategize. And then last but not least is the difficulty. If you do the hardest difficulty, then you're going to get a boost to your score. It actually doubles your score. Blight level 2 is less waves, and that's only going to boost by 30%. If you're just starting out and you want to really win, you can do Blight level 1. It's going to be very gracious in terms of if you make mistakes, it won't be that hard. So you're just kind of you're gonna have the first 3 waves for Blight level 1. If you do level 2, you're gonna get 2 more waves for a total of 5. And Blight level 3, you have to endure 7 waves, and it gets increasingly more difficult. Okay, so we're gonna do level 2 for the sake of this training. And when we're good to go, it's gonna let us click save and go. We can just kind of look at our loadout. If you want to make any changes, go ahead and click these. With the red minus, it'll send it back to that page, and you can make your changes you want. Okay, so now we're going to get into the battle here. Now, when you're in here, you can leave it as is. I'm going to actually zoom in a little bit so you can pinch zoom, and that'll let you kind of reposition things. So let me just optimize a bit here. Okay, and that looks pretty good to me. So there's a lot going on here, so let's break it down. Okay, so right off the bat, we have our waves up in the top left. We're on wave 1, and this is a tower defense game, and we are needing to protect our Everseed. This right here is our Everseed. Okay, and it may be a little tricky for you to see here, but if I zoom in, you can see that there's a 100 out of 100. So our Everseed has 100 HP. If we get down to 0, we are forced to flee, meaning we are defeated. So we want to protect this guy. What are we protecting it from? The Blight. And the Blight are going to be emerging from these spawn points. Okay, so it's a little vortex here. It's a Blight vortex. And so it's indicating to me that something's coming out of here. So you can go ahead and click on that. And it's telling me a Blight bug is coming out. It also has these lines that kind of give you a sense of the relative volume of enemies coming out of there. If you want more detail, you can click on that, and you can see the Blight bug has a certain amount of HP itself. Okay, so our Everseed has HP, the Blight bugs have HP, and our defenders are going to be attacking the bugs here. It has speed and damage. Damage meaning that when it thrusts its body into your Everseed, it's going to administer 4 damage to your Everseed. So if one bug hits me, I'll be down to 96, then 92, etc. Okay, so the bugs are going to be emerging from this spawn point, and they're going to be walking along this purplish line. Okay, and they're always going to be taking the shortest route possible. And whether they go this tile or this tile, that's up to the system, but it's telling you the path they're going to take right now. Okay, so we have plenty of time here. At least in the current build, there's no time restraint or anything. So we have all the time in the world we want to plan. And you can close the app, come back later. It's going to remember where you left off, which is awesome. So feel free to play in little spurts, but we're going to be doing a full playthrough here. And so we're on wave 1. And what we want to do is start planning our attack here. So these guys are definitely coming out when I click play. What can I do to make sure I squash them all? Well, one factor is your companion. So you have a Rugi here, our little faithful dog. And so if you press or click and hold, then you can move a Rugi. So I'm still holding down and I can move him somewhere else. So let's just see how, if we move him over here, what happens. He's gonna tromp over there, or tromp over there. But what happens if you put him in the way of the Blight Path? Ah, okay, they're gonna reroute. They're never gonna walk through your companion. At least with the current companions we have. Will that change? Maybe, but generally companions are an impasse. So the Blight goes, okay, well I need to go around this obstacle. Okay. And generally speaking, you want your companion to be somewhere near the line. It's not always the case, but generally you do. You have to kind of understand the companion's abilities. So when I click on a Rugi, I can see the basic attack, the attack range. Okay, and also if I click on a Rugi, you can kind of see the little circle radius. That's a Rugi's range. One other tip about moving a Rugi, if you don't want to press and hold, you can just tap. And tap again, okay? So that's another way to move them if you don't want to do the press hold thing. Okay, now you're free to move your companion as much as you want. It's not going to consume any resources for you to do so, or energy as it's called. One other note here is that during the wave itself, so when I click play and the enemies start coming out, I cannot move my companion. I have to wait till the end of the wave, and then during the next planning phase, we can move a Rugi again. Okay? The other thing we need to think about are our seedlings and our infusions. Okay, so on the right-hand side, little action menu area, we have seedlings. Okay, and you can see there's a little potion with the number 1, and that's going to consume 1 energy to plant a seedling. How much energy do we have? It's listed up here. Okay, we have 7 energy in this wave prep. You can plant seedlings to alter the path. Okay, so let me see if I can show you that. So I'm going to have them right now go through this tile. Okay, there are different types of tiles. You can see that this tile that just looks like regular dirt is called a rich soil tile. And I can plant seedlings on rich soil tiles. So usually you want your path to snake around your defenders, whether it's your companions or your seedlings or your infusions, as much as possible, because you really want to maximize the time that your defenders have to attack the Blight. So something I might want to do is click on the seedling and click here. Now, at least with this current build and me using an emulator, what I need to do is I need to click, and then I need to kind of pick up the seedling, okay? And I'm holding down, and this will let me not commit the planting, and it'll let me move it around to see if it will adjust the path. And so you want to make sure that the path is going to change in the way that you would expect, okay? And so we can see that I'm going to put on the rich soil, and that's going to become an obstacle, and they're going to go, you know what? I don't want to go this way anymore. It's too long. They're actually going to go the other way, okay? I'll do another seedling over here. This seems like a good spot. Okay, so now they're both going to be attacking. Now, if you look at the basic, I may call them basic seeds because they used to be called that, but these are seedlings. The range for a seedling, if I tap on them, you can visually see that aura. It's a 1 tile radius, and they attack at 1 per second, and they do 4 damage. So they do a very base amount of damage. They're not very strong, but they can add up. So it can sometimes be more important for you to create a really long path with seedlings, because they're an excellent obstacle. They're very cheap. They're just 1 energy. Okay, so I did 2 plantings, and you can see my energy of 7 went down to 5. So I have 5 more energy to spend. What else can we spend it on? Well, to make seedlings stronger, you can use an infusion to turn them into a new plant. Your infusions are going to show up on the right-hand side. And you may say, hey, well, I thought I grabbed 8 infusions. Why do I only see 4? The way it works is that you carry around, as a ranger, you carry around this infusions bag, and it contains all the infusions you chose during the loadout. Before each wave, you draw a certain number of infusions randomly and are free to use those. So here I had Thorny, Tema Herb, Blastwort, and Dark Creeper. I'm free to use those. I don't have to. And I need to have enough energy to do so. Now, generally, the drawing size is 4. It may not always be that way. It may depend on the patrol or if the team changes that. But right now I have 4 available to me. And when I start the wave, what I'm going to do as the Rangers, I'm going to put what I did not use back into the infusions bag. And the next wave will be, again, a random drawing of 4 from whatever infusions I have remaining. Each infusion has unique characteristics. Most of them will attack the enemy. Some are more defensive in nature, some are more supportive in nature. You're going to learn about each of these and become very familiar with them over time. But in the beginning, it can be quite a bit of new information. Okay. Now, the ones that do attack, at least right now, do at least as much damage as a seedling. Some of them are really good fighters. They're going to do a lot more damage. What you can do is when you click on one on the right-hand side, you'll see on the left-hand side information about that plant. And I'm going to put Thorny right there. And I'm also going to go with a Dark Creeper. Dark Creepers do not attack, but they do apply this effect called vulnerability, which means enemies take double damage while in the zone. So I'm going to plant Dark Creeper here, and you can see these bright purple outlines. That is the area of effect of Dark Creeper. So when they're in these 3 tiles specifically, because that intersects with their path, we're talking about double damage being done, which is awesome. Dark Creepers are fantastic. If you want more information about that plant, you don't have to only click here when you're going to plant them. That does work, but you can click on them right here as well. You may need to double click them. Okay, how else can we spend energy? So we've done seedling plantings, we've upgraded them to infusions, and we also have the ability to water. Now, why would we want to water? As we can see in the tip here, watering is going to splash down on certain tiles, and it's going to level up our plants, and specifically our infused ones. Basic seeds will not level up. Your companion will not level up from water. It's specifically the battle plants that have been infused. Okay, so you can see the little number there, and the circle is 1, 1. That's telling me that they're at level 1. They can go up to level 5 as the maximum. Now, be thoughtful about where you choose to water, because your water splashes down on the tile you select, as well as every neighboring tile. So if I'm eyeing this spot here, why? Because I can water both Dark Creeper and Thorny. If I only watered here, I'm not going to hit Thorny. So when I click this spot, it's every adjacent tile. Okay, so we're talking about this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile, this tile, and this tile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the target spot and every adjacent tile for a total of 7 tiles gets watered. So that's going to be a really good watering spot. Let's go ahead and tap. You can see the water splash effect, and you can see that the rich soil get darker. Okay. And that means that it's going to stay wet for 2 waves. So when I click play, they're going to go up from level 1 to level 2. And then we'll reevaluate the water on the next wave. I do recommend watering as much as you can. Now you have to do some energy management because you may need to, for a given wave, prioritize the pathing. more than the watering. But in general, the watering is very effective because you may ask, well, what's the point of leveling them up? They effectively get stronger. Whatever trait they have, they get better at that the higher level they are. So if you click on these guys here, like Thorny, you can see Thorny's big thing is attack speed. Level 1, he starts at 2 attacks per second, but when you get him up to level 5, it goes up to 6 attacks per second, which is 3 times more powerful than a level 1 Thorny. So, all other things being equal, a level 5 Thorny is putting out the same amount of damage as 3 level 1 Thornies. So it's really important to try and water them when you can. And you can see the kind of blue color that really helps a lot. How about Dark Creeper? Dark Creeper's vulnerability effect is going to, when you water them, it's going to last longer. So it doesn't really help me here. But if they like entered the pink zone here, the purple zone, and then they were happen to keep moving on, they would still be vulnerable after they left the zone. Okay, now initially, when they're level 1, when they leave the zone, they're immediately back to just taking single damage. But as you level up, Dark Creeper, it can last for up to 8 seconds, so that can be really helpful. Okay, so that's a lot for that first wave, but there was a lot of just ground rules to explain. There's some other things on the screen I haven't talked about yet, but we're gonna hit play. And if you haven't used all your energy, it's gonna just warn you, you have unspent energy. Do you wanna actually spend it? You don't have to, okay? But if you wanna go back, click spend energy, maybe I'll wanna put a seedling here. I could, why not? Because it is next to the path, it would not hurt. Okay, the last thing you may ask is, well, why is a Rugi here? Well, remember that I'm using a Rugi to kind of block the path. I want them to go around Thorny. And a Rugi has 2 range. Not every companion has that 2 range. So it does allow a Rugi to be pretty darn involved. And a Rugi also has a passive ability of leading the pack. If he's adjacent to a battle plant or an infusion that does damage, then he's actually going to give that plant a 25% attack damage boost, which is really nice. So we'll click play, and we'll let it ride out here. So the blight bugs are coming out. You can see their red damage, their red HP meters, and then you can see the floating numbers above, which is how much damage is being incurred. So you see 4444, that's Thorny, and then you see it go to 8888. That's because Thorny's damage is getting doubled by Dark Creeper, and then Arugi was just doing 20 because he normally does 10 damage, and then when he attacked when they're in the double damage zone, 10 times 2 is 20. Okay, so we finished the wave. Now we have the boons available to us. A boon is a little reward you get for surviving the wave. And you want to be thoughtful about what you pick here. Now, there is a skip button, at least right now, but I recommend always picking one. There's really never a reason you should skip. But if you happen to click out of here by accident, no worries. You can click back here. So the play button gets replaced by choose your reward. So it's really prompting you to pick a boon. Okay, now let's talk about Radiance. When I did click out here, I just so happened to pick up the darn things. Okay, but the Radiance are these little star kind of icons or little elements on the screen, and they're very shiny and shimmery, so you can click on those and you're going to collect them. And I just happened to click on it already, so when you do collect the Radiance, they show up down here. So I have 2 Radiance available to me. Radiance is completely independent of watering, so you can add Radiance to a level 1 plant or a level 5 plant, it doesn't matter, but these are kind of special abilities or buffs that you can add to a specific infusion. They're very, very powerful and strategic. Before I go into the Radiance though, let's choose a reward. We can select a new infusion. Okay, so I already have 2 Blastworts available in my bag, but I can get a 3rd one. I can do a minor energy boost, or I'm going to do a minor cleanse boost, which will cleanse some blight. We'll get to that shortly. For now, I'll just pick a new infusion and confirm that. Okay, now let's get into the Radiance. If I click the Radiance button, it's going to highlight the plants that can be upgraded. Okay, you can kind of see the thicker pink outline and then the thicker yellow. So I can upgrade either of these. And the way this works is when I select the Thorny, there's 2 tiers of Radiance. Let's focus our attention over here. There is tier 1 Radiance abilities. So if you played a video game where there's kind of a skill tree, it's very similar to that concept where this is my tier 1 Radiance abilities, and I have to pick one. So it's saying that I can kind of send Thorny on this path or on this path. I have to pick one of the tier 1s. I cannot have both. And then I can also pick a tier 2, and I need more Radiance for that. The cost of a tier 1 is 1 Radiance. The cost of a tier 2 is 2 Radiance. So pretty easy to remember. But you cannot get to tier 2 unless you've done a tier 1. Doesn't matter, at least with the current design, which tier 1 I pick in terms of which tier 2 is available. Like I could pick either tier 1 and it will unlock either tier 2. Will that change down the road? Maybe. But right now I can pick either. So for Thorny, my options are Pokey. I can do +1 damage, or I can do Spiny, which is +1 attack per second. But how about Dark Creeper? Let's click over to Dark Creeper. Dark Creeper has Toxic Tendrils. Each enemy takes 2 poison damage when it enters the tile, so that'd be 2 for 6 damage, or I can increase the zone range. Now, if you remember, the game, the loadout screen talked about how there was going to be armored guys, and I can click ahead. I cannot buy this because I don't have a tier 1 yet, but I can read ahead and plan and go, oh, well, interesting. Dark Creeper has a fragile ability where he's actually going to remove the armor or reduce the armor to 0 while in the zone here. So I'm going to kind of plan ahead for that. I want to actually get the Creepy, which is going to increase the zone range. So I'm going to click on that and hit upgrade. Now you can see that the pink-purple zone has expanded outward. So now it's really early, which is awesome. Now, over time, you'll get better at determining what Radiance abilities are the most helpful for a given patrol in the scenario you find yourself in. You don't have to analyze it to death when you start. Just try some things, see how it works. All right, the next big thing is cleansing Blight. Okay, the Blight are these purple tiles. And if I try to plant a seedling, I cannot. What's up with that? The Blight is covering it. I need to cleanse Blight. There's different ways to do that, but the most common way you're going to cleanse Blight is to look at these Everseed shards. It's like these little floating kind of diamond crystal looking things. And those come forth from your Everseed, and they're areas that you can target for cleansing Blight. The benefit to cleansing Blight is it's going to clear the land so that you can potentially plant seedlings, but it will cost you 2 energy. So to initiate a Blight cleansing, you want to first identify a good spot, and this starts to involve like what path you're going to take. I kind of like how they're going through the middle. Whether they go this way or this way, I don't really care. But at some point, I got to patch up this area. And right now, I have a Rugi doing that. Not ideal. I kind of want a Rugi more in the fight. So I'm going to pick one of these spots here. I'm going to go with this one. When you click on that, you would click it one more time to spend 2 energies. You can see cost -2, and that's going to cleanse. Now, before I do the cleansing, I want to walk through what's going to happen because there is some randomization involved here. The one thing that's guaranteed is that this tile will definitely become cleansed, and it will specifically become the rich soil tile. So we're guaranteed to be able to plant a seedling here, which is awesome. Now, the other tiles that get cleansed are randomized. So this one's definitely going to be rich soil. There's generally going to be 4 to 5 tiles total that are cleansed. So this one's cleansed, and then we can expect 3 to 4 others being cleansed. Which ones will that be? It's in the general area. It will not necessarily be adjacent. And on top of that, they may not be rich soil tiles. That's the most common outcome. But sometimes you're going to get a rubble tile, which if I click cancel here, the rubble tiles are these like boulders. And those are permanent. They're just always there, and they're always an obstruction. You cannot do anything with them. It's always just kind of like an impasse for everybody. Okay, so that may actually show up in one of the other cleansed tiles. You could also see a rocky patch tile. If one shows up, I'll call it out. But it looks like parched earth, and it cannot retain water, but you can plant stuff on there. There are many other types of tiles that can occasionally appear. One thing that will not appear is another Vortex that will not ever show up from a cleansing. So let's go ahead and cleanse this spot. So I'm going to click once and confirm that. I'm going to click again. Okay, so we got that guaranteed. Now this is still yellow because I just clicked it. I'm going to click over here to get rid of that. So I got a really nice cleansing there. I got that spot guaranteed, but I also got 1, 2, 3, 4 other spots that were cleansed. So now I can start planting stuff there. And then you can see Arugi is now, he's not thinking about an Everseed shard. It looks like a little thought bubble. But what that means is that if I move Arugi away, there's actually, when I cleanse the Blight in that spot, the Everseed shards randomly move to other tiles. And this is my new set of options here. If I don't do another cleansing and I start the wave, at the beginning of the next wave, they won't go back here necessarily. It's going to be randomized again. So if you don't like these cleansings, that's completely fine. You can just maybe wait till the next wave. But if you really are desperate to cleanse a spot this wave and you have the energy for it, I got 5 energy, I could. You can click again here and you can say, well, I don't really like these spots. You can click this cleanse reroll button. And you have to sacrifice an infusion, but it will, if you commit this, you click one of these infusions you want to sacrifice, it will randomly move these Everseed shards elsewhere. So you can kind of roll the dice on that if you want. Okay, but I'm going to click cancel and cancel because I'm good for now. I really want to start making sure my path looks good. Okay, now one of the things we want to look at here is let's look at the colored artifacts. We picked these up at the loadout. And so you can click on those and just kind of refresh yourself on what they do. And I want to call this out because we pulled out, we pulled out 4, but if you remember, my Boon that I picked was a Blastwort, so I have that immediately available to me. So now I have 5 here. And this yellow fragment, this is awesome because it's actually going to give me 1 energy back after planting a yellow battle plant. So we can see the number here is 2, but if I plant on a seedling, that already cost me 1. So these costs here for the infusions are assuming you're planting the infusion directly on a tile. So there's a couple ways to kind of plant infusions. One would be click on the Blastwort, and then you can see here it's going to cost me 1 to plant directly on the seedling. If I plant over here, it's 2 because it's essentially going to plant the seedling for me, and then the Blastwort, it just kind of is faster. So let's do that first one. I'll do 1 there, and that only cost me 1 energy. But remember, you may see, wait, it's still 5. Why is that? That was free, essentially, because I have the yellow fragment. Now, you get refunded after you plant, okay? So if you have 0 energy, and I did that, I would actually not be able to do that because you need to like spend the energy, but then you get immediately refunded, okay? I'm going to do another Blastwort here. Now, Blastworts are great. They have a range of 2, okay? And they also do a little bit of splash damage, okay? And when you water them, they actually get stronger. So they do more damage. Okay, so these are awesome. I love Blastworts. But I'm also going to do a Tema. Temas are very supportive in nature. And if you water them, you get 1 extra energy each time the Tema herb levels up. So it's very helpful if you want more energy to water those. And you can kind of see I'm clustering my guys together here, and that's intentional because when I water, I'm going to be able to hit multiple. Now you can see the tiles I watered last wave, they're a little less dark, okay? Because the water on rich soil is going to last for 2 turns or 2 waves. Okay, so when I click play, they're going to go up to level 3, and then the soil is going to be back to dry. But you can always water it again. So you can see I just watered this one, and now it's dark for dark creeper again. It's also dark here and here. So this dark creeper will go to level 4 eventually. These will go to level 3 eventually. And then let's get Arugi back into the battle here. I'm going to put him over here. I think it's a good spot. He's very involved, and he's actually going to be giving a slight damage buff to Thorny just because he's next to him. I still have 2 energy. What do I want to do with that? It is also a good exercise to get in the habit of checking what's coming out. Slimelings are pretty darn fast. They have a speed of 2. Not so much HP, no armor. So they're little sneaky guys. They're going to run by pretty quickly, but Thornies are great for that, as are Blastworts. Okay, the other thing I do want to just demonstrate, again, this is a tutorial, so I'm trying to show you everything, is you can move infusions around. Okay, so if you don't like the placement of this guy, you can click and hold, and then you can move them by clicking somewhere else, or you can keep holding it down and you can move them somewhere else. It will cost you. You cannot move seedlings, but you can move infusions, at least right now, okay? So if you need to move a seedling, you have to upgrade that to an infusion and then move it, okay? So you can do that to move them. And I just, kind of a waste of energy, but I wanted to demonstrate how you move, okay? And the Blastwort's kind of far away. I'm going to do a Radiance upgrade for the Blastwort, and we're going to give that Blastwort a bit more range. So I'm going to upgrade, and you can see if you click on that now, this Blastwort's quite involved, even though it's pretty far away from the path. We are ready. We're going to click play. And during this wave, I'm going to also demonstrate to you the active ability of our companions. So we have this button here, and Growl's going to slow them down, and it has a range of 3. So watch as I use it here. It's a little hard to see, but they slow down. I'll use it again on a different wave where there's more enemies, because those guys die so darn quick. Okay, we have the ability to heal, so you might find that you need to heal. I'm good. I'm still at 100. I can do a new infusion, and I can do minor energy boost. Let's go with the new infusion. Okay, now this is the first time where we have 2 spots, 2 spawn points, and you can see that it's 2 different paths. I'm not a big fan of that. I want to, sometimes you're forced to fight the battle on 2 fronts, but if you can just fight the battle on 1 front and funnel them all, that's usually a really good strategy. So I'm going to roll the dice on this spot. And it's not really rolling the dice so much because this is already cleansed. And this one, since it is the target spot, these are both definitely going to be rich soil. So I'm going to click on that. I might get a rubble. I did not. I got a rocky soil, or it's called rocky patch, excuse me. The rocky patch is very, very dry. So you can't actually water that, but you can plant something there if you want. In my case, that's not really beneficial. So I'm just going to do a planting here. I'm going to do another seedling here. So I want to force them to all go the same path. Another tip I have for you is I do want to water Thorny at some point. But if you're planning to water and cleanse Blight, you should first cleanse Blight, because the water is not going to permeate the Blight. You need to cleanse it first. So I'm going to do this one, and then I can water. Now, here's one other tricky thing, okay? Because this goes down to kind of the micro strategy, but it's important. I mentioned earlier that I get refunded after I plant. So I'm going to maximize that. Okay, so these artifacts are going to refund me. And so I want to put like a Blastwort here. So why don't I do a seedling? I have 2 energy, and then I'll do a Blastwort. That's free. Because here's the thing. If I watered first, right now 2 energy left, I'm going to go to 0, and that's going to say, sorry, you're out of energy. And you're going to say, well, no, I'll get refunded. Yes, but you have to temporarily spend that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to water first. Seems like a good spot. I just did that backwards. My bad. I said one thing, I did the opposite. It's a good learning, right? It's like, oops, I wanted to actually plant the Blastwort, so what do I do now? Well, Tema has a really good ability to give you energy. Now you have to determine if that trade-off is worth it, okay? Because it does cost you Radiance, but I'm going to use a Radiance to get 1 energy. That's one of Tema's abilities. So I'm going to upgrade, now I have 1 energy. Okay, but that's my point being there. You saw how it all grayed out, and it's like, oh no, I actually wanted to plant the Blastwort first. So you want to be careful with the order of things that you're doing, because there is no undo button, at least right now. Some of the community has requested that, and that may be a feature down the road, which would be helpful. But right now, you have to be very, very careful about with the order of what you do. So if I do a Blastwort, yes, this costs me 1 energy as it says here, but I immediately get that back. And now Tema, I do want to get a Tema down at some point because a Tema is going to be free, basically. So similar thing, I'm going to plant that here. And it's saying 1, but remember I have a green artifact. So I temporarily go to 0, but then immediately back to 1. So that's completely free. Okay, Temas are unique in that they, when you infuse a basic seed or a seedling, they don't cost anything. Okay. So if I had put, what I mean is if I put the Tema directly on the seedling, it's no cost. You'd see a 0 on that tile. Okay, and then I'm going to put a Rugi here. Rugi's really involved with the fight. I like that. And there's a really neat ability of the Tema. The other one, aside from Energize, is Companionship. It actually doubles the damage of your Rugi. And that stuff compounds, right? So we have, if we have a Blight enemy here in the Dark Creeper zone, and we have the Tema boost with the Companionship, Rugi is actually going to do 40 damage. We just quadrupled Rugi's base damage. Remember, you cannot level up a Rugi, but we can have the plants help a Rugi get stronger. Okay, so I like the setup here. I still have the 1 energy. And I don't really see anywhere else I want to go for now, so I'm just going to click play. And let's try that active ability again. It's not a really tough round, but we're going to click it here. You can see they slow down there. See that? There's no like... Let me try that again here if I can. Yeah, right now there's no like little visual icon indicating that they are slowed down. There may be one in the future. Okay, now this is, I love these boons. This is a Radiance boost here, a minor Radiance boost. I'm going to confirm that, so I get that Radiance. But you can also see these Radiance here that I haven't picked up yet. Okay, so you just click on those and you collect them. It's happened every wave, but like I was kind of clicking on them by accident. So normally, if you see them floating around the map, collect those and they'll be available to you. And what do we want to do now? We're going towards the end here. We're on wave 4. We've been doing great so far. We haven't taken any hits. Let's just pause and take a look at the score here. So on the bottom left, you can click this and you can see a breakdown of your score. Some will increment as you complete tasks. So I get, for seedlings, for example, I have 50 points from that because I planted 2 seedlings. And then I also get points for each battle plant level. Okay. And you can kind of just study how the breakdown is. Other categories, you start with the most points and they're yours to lose. So Everseed HP I have 100, and for that I get 10,000, which is really nice. So every hit I'm taking is quite significant. That's 100 points per HP. Okay, so when you're first playing the game, it's not that important, but as you start playing the daily patrols and you're trying to get rewards, that score is going to help you. As far as we understand it, it's gonna boost your rewards. So you're gonna, maybe as you get more and more skilled with the game, you're gonna really start getting into the nuances of how do you maximize your score. So that's how you can see that breakdown at any point. Okay, so now we're gonna be looking at the enemies here, and I want to call out a certain effect that could cause you some grief. It's one of the big things that the Blight have, some of them have, is armor. So I have an Armordon coming out. They only have 18 HP, but they have armor 10. And so what that would mean is that the first 10 damage of each attack is negated. Okay, but the minimum that a plant is going to do is 1. So let's look at, for example, Blastwort. At the next wave, he's going to be level 3. So Blastwort's going to only do 6 damage base, assuming we're not in the double damage zone. And so what does that mean for Armordon? Armordon is actually only going to take 1 damage from a Blastwort, which stinks. That's why the anti-armor is really important. So if I do the Radiance upgrade for Dark Creeper and we do Danger Zone, enemies are going to be fragile while they're in the zone. Okay, now the zone's only right here, so I may want to strategize and move Dark Creeper to a more centralized location. You kind of have to decide how you can maximize the double damage zone and now the anti-armor zone. So what I'll do is do a little bit of movement here. So I'm going to do a Blight Cleansing. And I'm going to move Blastwort over here. And I'm going to move Dark Creeper up here. And it's all costing me energy, but it's very worth it to me. Because look at that. Now we have the Dark Creeper. This whole area is double damage. And I may want to move up this guy just to bump them back up. But you have to be careful that you don't do a movement where and then all of a sudden you're out of energy. Because you can see I moved Blastwort up and that opened up this hole. I want to seal that right away. Now we're back to a good setup. At some point I want to plug this hole, but it's not urgent for this wave because I only have them coming up from the top here. And it can be a little, if you're not looking carefully, you can see that there's actually 2 spawn points. It just so happens that they overlap here. But this is really beautiful because they start to converge, and Blastworts love when there's a bunch of clumpy enemies because Blastworts, as I mentioned, do splash damage. Thornies do not. Sapweed can also be very helpful, so why don't we get a Sapweed on the map? Sapweeds will slow down. They apply this goop, and the goop slows down the enemy that it hits. Every time you water Sapweed, that goop effect, which is it slows them down by 50%, that goop duration increases. And I would want to water Sapweed at some point in this guy, but this one's also a nice spot. I'm actually going to want to get this Tema watered one more time, so I get 1 more energy out of that. So this would be a nice spot here to hit all of them. And now I'm out of energy. These are grayed out. I do still have 1 Radiance. I may want to use that, but I'm going to wait and see how the final wave looks first. Let's take a look at this spawn point. We have a Brute. These guys are no armor, but very high HP. So it's something to keep an eye on. But this is all double damage. I feel very good about this. We're going to go ahead and click play. But just one more quick thing on armor. The way the armor is going to be negated here is through that fragile ability. One of the things to note is that for the Dark Creeper, they have the poison, and you also have the Night Lilies, which will be introduced at some point, and they also just do poison damage. Poison ignores armor, so poison will just immediately permeate and do the full damage of that poison. You can also do very high damage attacks, so I make it a Muscle Branch on the final wave. A Muscle Branch does massive damage in excess of Armadon's 10 armor. So if the Muscle Branch does 30 damage on a hit, the Armadon is going to still take 20 damage, which is pretty significant. Okay, so just some strategies on armor because that can be the make or break for you in terms of beating the level. So I'm going to click play. We're going to let this unfold. And look at this. It's just, we're just really destroying them because even these armored guys, they don't have a lot of HP. We're completely negating their armor, so they're really getting destroyed here. Now this guy's getting decently far, but we squashed them. Okay, I'm going to go with a minor energy boost for my final wave. Now wave 5 you got to be aware of is going to have typically a boss. So I'm going to look for that. What's this? Armosaurus Rex, 500 HP. Okay, they're really slow, 0.5, but they do 75 damage. So you only have 100 HP, so you really want to try and prevent this guy from getting you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I don't have a good Blight Cleansing spot here, so I'm actually going to use a Rugi. Move him down. Now, unfortunately, I move him away from companionship, but I'm going to have to take that. I do like this spot here, so I'm going to open that up. I'm going to move Blastwort over there. I'm going to move Tema next to my Arugi again, and then I'm going to put a Muscle Branch here. Muscle Branches are more expensive, okay? They cost 1 more energy than a typical Infusion. And then I have 3 energy left, so these guys are level 5. It's not really important that I water them. I'm going to actually do a watering on these 2. Tema will also get watered, but I don't really care about that because at this point, it's wave 5, and all they do is give me energy when I water them. Okay, we have 1 left. I suppose it would not hurt to, do a basic seed up here. Why not? And then we got Radiance, and that's going to be important. So the the tier 2 abilities are awesome, and you kind of have to be thoughtful about how you use that. So I'm thinking that for Muscle Branch, I'm going to go with the plus damage boost here, and then I'm going to go back into that again, and I'm going to do Pump Iron, or I'm going to do Shockwave. Shockwave does splash damage, and I think that's going to help me a lot because I see 1, 2, 3 spawn points, and Muscle Branch is right on the convergence of all that, and when he hits, plus Sapweed slowing down some guys, he's going to have some major kills here. So we're going to do Shockwave, see that on in action. Okay, just a bit more if you are going into the level 3 Blight. You're going to have 7 waves. So for generally right now for wave 5, you can expect 1 or 2 bosses. I'm going to check the other ones just to see if there's any others. There are not. Okay, so just 1 in this level, in this patrol. And then if you're doing wave 7, you can expect 2 to 4 bosses. So that can get pretty challenging. So you definitely want to plan for where the bosses are coming from. They tend to be pretty slow. They may not always be, but they tend to be slow. So if you can isolate them, that's always a good strategy. But let's let this play out. You may want to use the Arugi, the bark here, to slow down. And Arugi's bark range is actually 3. And so it should actually reach him here. So I'm actually going to growl right now. And you can see I just hit this guy, so he's really slowed down. I'm just trying to isolate him because I want to make sure Muscle Branch gets some good hits off on the Armor Source Rex. And that's a double damage zone, no armor. He's only at 45. I did plus 30 damage for the Radiant, so base 75 damage plus double damage. He'll do 150 per hit. So watch Muscle Branch just unload on him. Boom, 150. Boom, 150. So that is a successful battle. We are victorious. I got a score of 39,000. Okay, if you got rewards from doing a daily patrol, they would show up here. You automatically collect them, and you just click continue. Okay, so that was a 5-wave battle, level 2 Blight. I hope that was helpful, and it's a lot, so I encourage you to just kind of keep playing and iterating, trying different things. That's the best way to learn, in my opinion, is just go play some past patrols and have some fun. Okay, now when you're ready to start going into the daily patrols, I'm going to show you that. So you click start. And then for the daily patrol, I haven't played today's yet. Click start. And then you can see the time remaining for the current patrol. I have 13 hours left. And when you first get here, you're going to get 1 free play. And then you can do 3 additional attempts. And you're going to watch an ad at the beginning. You'll have to watch an ad to get those plays. And then if you still want to play beyond that, then you can purchase 7 using Glint. Glint is the in-game currency here. And if you do need to get more Glint, you can go to the shop here, get some Glint there. And then I encourage you to check out some of the other areas in the menu. If you have questions about specific things or the rewards, go to the Discord and you can ask the team there. Okay, but going back to the daily patrol, this is the same patrol that everyone else today is playing, which is pretty cool because you can go to the Discord community and talk about your strategy there. You can ask for some tips from the community. And it's fun to compare scores and say like, hey, well, I got 72,000. And the other person may get 74,000. You can kind of compare, and it's really fun because you're all working on the same patrol and how to beat it and how to get the best score. So it's really fun to be in the community. I encourage you to be there if you're not. So with that is the video. If you found this helpful, I'd appreciate a like. If you want to see some more content like this, feel free to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.